What I saw, I wouldn't want any parent to go through. I could look in the room. There's writing all over the wall. I kind of just was in shock for the whole day. I knew something was wrong. That's not my daughter. She would call me all the time, talk about, Daddy, I'm checking on you. And I'd be like, no, I'm checking on you. You know, that was our little joke. And I knew something was wrong as soon as I got there.
Yeah, that was our baby. And as many people in Houston knew her and loved her, she was as sweet with them as she is with us. She took care of people. She's just a sweetheart. And my baby's gone from a tragic event that didn't have to happen. Being strangled to death is a horrible way to die. And my baby's gone. And it was horrible to even think about it.
She was the picture of success, an Instagram star, a rising icon, a woman adored by millions. But in the blink of an eye, she disappeared. Not in a dark alley, not in a foreign country. She vanished in the one place we all believe were safe, her own home. Her father kicked down the door, and what he found would scar him forever. She was gone. Another man was dead, and the walls were covered in haunting messages written in his blood. This wasn't just a break-in. This was a slow, calculated descent into madness planned by a man who followed her from behind a screen. No cameras, no cries for help, just a single, horrific scene that turned her sanctuary into a house of nightmares. Who was he? Why her? How did he find her address? And why did no one see it coming? This isn't just a crime story. It's a warning, because the next victim could be watching this right now. Like, share, subscribe. You won't believe how deep this rabbit hole goes. Richmond, Texas. A quiet, suburban town just outside of Houston. The kind of place where families raise their children and people leave their doors unlocked. The streets are lined with palm trees and cul-de-sacs. The air is still, peaceful. But behind one townhouse door, something unimaginable had already happened. It was August 29th, 2021, a warm Sunday evening. Jenna Gagnier, known to her millions of fans as Miss Mercedes Moore, hadn't posted in days. No selfies, no stories, no live streams. Silence. That wasn't like her. She was always active, always connected. Her DMs were full. Her feed was a stream of glamorous photos, designer outfits, exotic trips. But now, nothing. Her father, Mark Gagnier, knew something was wrong. He'd been calling, texting. No response. He felt it in his bones, an unease that tightened his chest with every passing hour. He drove to her apartment. Her car was outside. The lights were off. The door was locked. He knocked. No answer. He shouted her name. Silence. Then, he kicked it in. The moment he stepped inside, the silence was deafening. The house felt still. Too still. He called out again. Still nothing. And then, he saw her. Jenna was lying at the foot of the stairs. Cold. Motionless. Gone. But the nightmare wasn't over. Upstairs, in a room dark and quiet, was a man. A stranger. Kevin Alexander Cordo. He was barely alive, covered in blood, wounds self-inflicted. He would die within minutes. And the walls? Covered in writings. Scribbled notes. Blood. Ink. Scrawlings that made no sense. Confessions. Rants. Apologies. It wasn't a robbery. It wasn't random. It was personal. Intentional. What happened inside that home would shatter the illusion of safety. A rising star, taken in silence. A killer who never should have been there. A father, forever changed. This was no ordinary crime. It was something darker. Something that started long before that day. With a screen, a stranger, and a deadly obsession. The call started on Friday. No answer. No read receipts. No sign of life. Jenna wasn't the type to go silent. Not online. Not with her family. Her father kept calling. Her sister sent messages. Friends posted on her feed. Hours turned into a full day. Then 2. And still, nothing. Her father's worry turned into dread. He knew her routines. Her voice. Her habits. He knew something was wrong. Sunday afternoon, he drove to her place. A quiet, gated townhouse community in Richmond. Peaceful, clean, nothing out of the ordinary. Her car was parked neatly where it always was. Nothing seemed off until he reached the front door. Locked? She didn't answer. He kicked it open. The door slammed against the wall. The air was still. The blinds were drawn. The silence inside was thick, suffocating. He stepped in, each step an ache in his chest. And then he saw her. His baby girl. Jenny's body lay motionless at the base of the stairs. Dressed, lifeless, cold. Her father rushed to her, screaming her name. But it was too late. She was gone. Then, upstairs, a sound. Faint. A shuffle. A breath. That's when he saw him. A man. On the floor. Covered in blood. His arms shredded with deep, angry cuts. A knife nearby. He was dying. Kevin Alexander Cordell. A stranger. Her father had never seen him before. No one in the family had. As police arrived and secured the scene, what they discovered horrified even the most seasoned officers. The walls were covered with messages, scribbled with a pen, some scrawled in blood. Confessions, obsessions, deranged thoughts. I should have stopped. I was used for money. I wish I never met her. I'm sorry. Who wrote them? Why? And what did they mean? Kevin had driven over 1,000 miles. From Florida. Alone. He had no known connection to Jenny. No personal relationship. But online, he had followed her. Liked her photos. Watched her live streams. Read every caption. Listened to every word. And somewhere along the way, he began to believe she was speaking directly to him. She had no idea someone had been following her. Across platforms. Across states. A parasocial connection, one-sided. Twisted. Dangerous. To Kevin, she wasn't just a woman on a screen. She was his. And when he realized she didn't even know his name, he snapped. What began as admiration turned into obsession. What started with a follow, ended in blood. The story was just beginning. His name was Kevin Alexander Cordell, 34 years old. From Florida. He wasn't a boyfriend. He wasn't a friend. Not a relative. Not a coworker. He was a ghost. A man who existed only on the other side of a screen, until he didn't. Police ran his background. No criminal record. No restraining orders. Nothing that would have raised a red flag. To the world, he was invisible. Quiet. Unremarkable. But something inside him had been unraveling for months. The autopsy confirmed what no parent ever wants to hear. Jenny Gagnier, Miss Mercedes Moore, had been strangled. There were signs of a brutal struggle. She'd been struck in the head, severe trauma. Defensive wounds on her arms. She fought back. She tried to survive. But she was overpowered. Accordo, on the other hand, had inflicted his own wounds. Deep cuts. Bleeding out over hours. Police say he lingered in the house, with her body, for an extended time. No one knows exactly how long. And the most chilling part? There were no signs of forced entry. Which meant one of two things. He either followed her inside, or she let him in. But those closest to her say she never would have done that. Not with someone she didn't know. Not unless he caught her off guard. Maybe she was returning from a store run. Maybe she was distracted. Maybe he waited. But once he was inside, there was no going back. The walls told the rest of the story. Scrawled in thick black marker and dried blood, the messages were erratic. Delusional. I should have stopped. I was used for money. I wish I never met her. I love you forever. I'm sorry. A descent into obsession, played out like a final, broken diary. Investigators believe he wrote the notes while bleeding, slowly dying, alone. No one will ever know exactly what was going through his mind in those final moments. But the words he left behind painted a clear picture. This wasn't a burglary. It wasn't random. It was a fantasy turned fatal. For her father, the nightmare plays on repeat. He stood over her body, frozen, disbelieving. A father who watched his daughter rise from humble beginnings to fame, only to find her silenced in the one place he thought she was safe. He later said, "You never expect to outlive your child. But to find her like that image will never leave my mind. The pain, the helplessness, the rage, and one question, louder than all the rest. How did this man, this stranger, find her? How did no one see this coming? And what was it that truly led him there? That was the turning point. The veil had been lifted. Now came the investigation, the media storm, the theories, and the disturbing truth behind the digital life of a woman who had no idea she was being watched. The days that followed were chaos. The story broke nationally. Headlines exploded across every platform. Instagram model found dead in apparent murder-suicide. Miss Mercedes Moore killed in her Texas home. Suspect identified as out-of-state stalker. But none of those headlines captured the truth. None of them told the story behind the filters, behind the fame. Because Jenna Gagnier wasn't just an influencer. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend. She was love and laughter, the light in a room. A woman who gave confidence to others just by walking in her own. The police confirmed it quickly. There was no prior relationship between Jenna and Kevin Accordo. They had never met, never spoken, no calls, no texts, no photos together. He was, in every official sense, a stranger. But to Kevin, she wasn't. His obsession had started long before that August day. Investigators uncovered what they feared, a digital paper trail. Searches, posts, private accounts. He had followed her closely, too closely. Not just on Instagram, but on Snapchat, Facebook, OnlyFans. Anywhere she existed online, he was there. Lurking, watching, consuming. His notes revealed signs of delusion. He believed he had a relationship with her, that they had a spiritual bond, that she owed him something. This was no crime of passion. It was the dark end of a one-sided fantasy. A parasocial relationship turned into obsession, turned into violence. In group chats and comment threads, her fans mourned. Tributes poured in from across the globe. Fellow influencers posted videos in tears. Hashtags trended. But there were whispers too. Whispers from people who had seen it coming. Friends came forward. DMs were released. Jenna had confided in people about weird fans. One message read, "Some of these guys are scary. They talk like they know me, like I'm theirs." Another, "I think someone's following me online. I blocked them, but they keep coming back with new accounts." She tried to stay strong, to stay visible, to keep shining in a space that rewarded vulnerability and presence. But she was human, and behind the scenes she was scared. This wasn't the first time she felt unsafe. And now everyone was asking the same questions. Could this have been prevented? Was there a way to see the warning signs? Did the platform she built her life on fail to protect her? At vigils and memorials, her father spoke through tears. "She didn't deserve this. My daughter was pure. She didn't hurt anyone." He called for accountability, for change, for justice, not just for Jenna, but for every woman who had ever been made to feel unsafe by someone hiding behind a screen. The mourning became a movement, because Jenna was more than a headline. She was a warning, a reminder of the very real danger behind digital fame. The likes, the comments, the attention, it can turn into something darker when boundaries blur. She wasn't just a model. She was a daughter, a sister, and a victim of something far more sinister than most ever realize. And she was gone. But the story was far from over. Before the world knew her as Miss Mercedes Moore, she was Jenna. Born and raised in Houston, Texas, Jenna Gagnier was the kind of girl everyone noticed. Not just because of her beauty, but because of her light. Her smile could flip a room. Her energy? Unforgettable. She was kind, fierce, the type who lifted others up while chasing her own dreams. She came from a close-knit family, her father Mark, her mother Jeanette, and her sister London, who often called her my built-in best friend. As a child, Jenna was creative. She loved fashion, music, dance. She wasn't afraid to express herself. And even as a teen, she had that rare mix of confidence and compassion. She could own a stage and still be the first to comfort someone in tears. She worked hard. She studied. She dreamed bigger than the world around her. But everything changed when she discovered Instagram. She saw what no one else around her did: potential. A platform. A brand. A business. She began posting regularly, styling her own shoots, curating her image. She built herself from scratch, no manager, no agency, just ambition and strategy. And the numbers didn't lie. Her audience exploded. 300,000, 500,000, a million, then more. With every post, every reel, every story, her presence grew. Miss Mercedes Moore became a household name in the world of influencers. She partnered with fashion lines, made appearances, built her own content empire. To her fans, she was glamorous, flawless, a fantasy come to life. But what they didn't see was the hours she spent planning content, the pressure to stay relevant, the mental weight of being everyone's image of perfection. And what they refused to see was that fame didn't protect her. It made her more vulnerable. Because the more followers she gained, the more invisible threats came with them. Behind every like could be a stranger who thinks they know you. Behind every "I love you" comment could be someone who believes you love them back. That's what makes parasocial relationships so dangerous. When the line between audience and reality is blurred. To you, the creator is just a screen away, a familiar face, a voice in your ear. You think they know you. You think they see you. You believe in something that isn't real. Experts call it emotional intimacy without mutuality. The follower knows everything about the influencer, their routines, their voice, their fears. But the influencer knows nothing about the follower. It's a one-way mirror, and some people don't handle that mirror well. For most fans, it ends with a like, a message, a fantasy. But for a disturbed few, it becomes obsession, entitlement, control, possession, and sometimes tragedy. Jenna's rise was filled with beauty and brilliance. But in the shadows of her success, something dark was growing. She was admired by millions and silently hunted by one. That's the part no one talks about. What it costs to live your life on display. What it takes to always be on. She once said in a live stream, "People think they know me, but you'll only know what I let you see." Those words would become haunting, because as the world celebrated her light, a man was watching, feeding off the illusion, writing a story in his mind where she belonged to him. And one day, he came to claim her. She never stood a chance. Who was Kevin Accordo? Kevin Alexander Accordo, a name the world never knew until it was too late. Born and raised in Florida, 34 years old, no major criminal record, no history of violence, no social footprint that would have hinted at what he was capable of. But what he did leave behind was obsession, a slow spiral into darkness. Kevin was described by neighbors as quiet, polite, withdrawn. He lived alone, kept to himself. No romantic partners, no children. His digital presence? Barely visible. No red flags. But under the surface, something was boiling. He followed Jenna on multiple platforms. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat. Any place where she posted, he watched. Liked. Saved. Obsessed. Police discovered handwritten journals in his car. Pages filled with her name. Pages filled with plans. Ideas. Delusions. In one entry, he wrote, "I know she's meant for me. She just doesn't see it yet." Then came the road trip. Kevin left his home in Florida, traveled across multiple states, over 1,000 miles, alone, by car. Investigators used toll booth footage, gas station surveillance, and GPS data to map the journey. It was premeditated, strategic. He had food, water, a knife. He brought zip ties, and he brought a note, a suicide letter written before he even reached Texas. He knew how this would end. What remains unexplained is how Kevin found her exact address. Jenna had never posted her location. Her profile didn't list it. Friends say she was extremely careful. So how did he get it? Experts believe it could have come from one of several avenues. Leaked private data from third-party sites, public business filings, reverse image search from something in a photo, or, worst of all, he followed her, in person, without her ever knowing. Digital forensics teams pulled data from his phone. They found saved images, comments, screenshots of her stories, and perhaps most disturbing Google searches. How to find someone's address through Instagram. Richmond, Texas influencer live location. Miss Mercedes Moore home address. He had been planning this for weeks, maybe months. Experts on stalking behavior reviewed the case. They described Kevin as a classic example of what's known as an intimacy seeker, a stalker who creates an imagined relationship with their victim. And when that relationship is shattered by reality, they become dangerous, deadly. What's terrifying is how ordinary he seemed, how easily he slipped through every net, because there were no nets. And Janae never knew he existed, until the moment she saw him in her home. Fame, obsession, and parasocial traps. Fame in the digital age is not what it used to be. It's not stadiums and security guards. It's not magazines and red carpets. No, it's your bedroom, your phone, your voice, and someone else's mind. Parasocial relationships are one way. The fan consumes the content, the stories, the selfies. They feel close, intimate, like they know the creator. But the creator has no idea they exist. As Janae's story spread, more influencers began to speak out. About DMs, about stalkers, about the fear they feel every time they go live. And the question keeps echoing. Are we part of the problem? For Janae, social media was her career, her community, her identity. She built herself online, and the platforms gave her everything: fame, influence, opportunity. But they also gave strangers a key, because in exchange for that visibility, she gave up her safety. Social media rewards platforms, slow to respond, no real protections, no emergency contacts, no red flags shared with authorities. Algorithms amplified her, but they never protected her. She had 3.8 million followers, and one fatal follower. Janae Gagnier lived a life that inspired many. She turned a smartphone into a career, a passion into a platform, a name into a movement. But in death, she revealed something darker. The truth about fame in the digital age. How admiration can turn into obsession. How beauty can attract danger. How follow can become fatal. One like, one comment, one wrong person. That's all it took. Her story is a mirror, and all of us are looking into it. Creators, fans, platforms, and systems. And now, we ask you, what's your theory about how Kevin found her? Could this have been stopped? Should social media platforms be held accountable for what happens when admiration becomes a weapon? We want to hear from you. Comment your thoughts below. Share this video with someone who needs to understand the real risks. And subscribe for more stories that matter, stories that must be told. Because sometimes, the only way to protect the next victim is to never forget the last. Rest in power, Janae Gagnier. You were more than a headline. You were a voice, a light, and you still are.